Preparando transmisión en directo. Yes, we are live.
So hello to our adoring fans. That's a funny joke Simon and I were just making. Happy Saturday, unstoppable friends.
Happy Saturday.
Yeah, we're so excited to see you, or not see you, but imagine you. You're all there, thriving, doing
Imagine seeing you.
great, and
Imagine you
joining
seeing
live.
us.
Imagining, just using our imaginations because we're unstoppable. So, guess what? No surprise, we've got a fun topic. And first of all, could you all join me in welcoming Simon back? Because we love our usual pattern a little bit different than when Monique is just picking random people to come and save her from doing the show alone. So, welcome back, Simon. How was your weekend last weekend?
Um, very, very, very amazing. Thank you. Picking a random person to come and do the show with you is called a special guest, by the way.
It was a special guest.
It's got a name.
I
You
think
say
that I think
you're
that's what I
supposed to
meant to
say you
name
had a
the
special
actual YouTube
guest
recording.
last week.
Yeah, yeah. And to be fair, I do sort of adore that guest, so it was a very special guest. You're right. I was being silly.
Very special guest.
So today, now that Simon's back, we are going to do the topic that we had scheduled. We're so excited to talk to you about this because I think it's something that you all can relate to. You've experienced it, you've seen it, and well, of course, you can probably imagine. Here's a teaser. We're going to challenge you to dig in a little bit more with this today. So, here's a question that I have for you. Have you ever felt that it was hard to be kind? Maybe you've been in a situation where you were challenged and it felt a little bit hard to be kind. I've been there. I don't know about you. But what happens when we show kindness, even when it's hard? What in the world does that do? That's the question for today. And I think it's a really good question because we should get together with our friends and talk about and try to answer really hard questions together. So, Simon, do you think you could help us with this question? Like maybe you've got a story or an experience to share?
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes, I have a story. And this story may or may not be a little bit difficult for me to share with you, but I wanted to share it with you because it just popped into my head when this theme came up, and it's such a wonderful story, very personal. So this is actually a story about my niece. Now, the reason why it's so personal and slightly difficult for me to tell is because my niece is no longer with us anymore.
Oh, wow.
Um, but she was a very, 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 very caring person. And this little story, which I'm going to share with you, which is very short but very sweet and very cute, just really is going to bring that home for you and be a great example for the stage that Monique's just set with that, just working out what happens when we show kindness when it's hard. So yeah, set the scene. This is my local what used to be my local swimming baths. So we were brought up in a small town in North Yorkshire in the north of England. And yeah, it's kind of a beautiful place to live.
Mhm.
And just over the back of where we used to live, there's just a massive, amazing swimming pool. And when we were all at school, that's where we did our 50-meter swimming certificates and, diving to the bottom of the pool in our pajamas to, I don't know, certificate, whatever that is. And so that's that's where all the swimming events and galas and races took part. And there's the big pool which is like an Olympic-sized pool, like 50 meters long. And just next to that, there's the kids' pool, which is literally just like a postage stamp in
Mm.
like comparative in size. And so my niece must have probably been only about 5 or 6, maybe 7 years old. And the race which she was participating in, it sounds a bit strange. I suppose it's. Are you familiar with an egg and a spoon race, or is that just a very
Yes,
English thing?
yes,
Yeah,
we do the egg and spoon race in lower school
right.
at the end
Okay,
of every school year in a lot of
okay.
places,
Well,
actually. It's very
it
popular.
wasn't that, but I was trying to think of kind of like an equivalent. So what we had to do was in the postage stamp size kind of like baby pool, they basically had to get a balloon and kind of just rush across the pool. Either, it's own. It's not. I forget whether it kind of like varies in depth or not. But it's the one where people learn to swim. So I think you can probably stand up. But if you stand
Uh,
up, sometimes you can swim faster than you can kind of wade through water. I don't know. You just have to get through the
Get
water,
across.
get to
Yeah.
the other side first with your balloon in your hand. And the the gun went off, the race started, and my niece was kind of in the lead. And what happened almost as she got to the end, the 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 person who was next to her dropped a balloon. Um, and so she caught this out of her eye. And instead of, kind of taking advantage and, kind of rushing for the finish line, she actually stopped, picked up the balloon of the person who was next to her, gave it to her back, and by this time, several people had gone past and won the race, and all sorts of things had happened. But it's just such a great example of being kind in a hard situation, because what happens is generally when we, you know, when we're whenever let's define what it is when it's hard. When we say when it's hard, we mean we're like in the thick of things.
Yeah.
So, something tricky is happening. There's a challenge comes up. Um, you know, Maybe you're just trying to get through a bunch of questions at working through some problems at school, and somebody next to you asks you for a little bit of help because you know a little bit more than what they do. And so instead of just kind of, trying to carry on and rush and finish, and get to the end of the questions which you need to do so you can be first, and you can,
Mhm.
sit back and relax, and you can have the satisfaction of being the first in the class to finish. You might take some time just to help the person who's next to you.
Yeah.
That's considering that you're not in the middle of a test. I'm not talking about
You're
cheating
not
in
allowed to
tests.
help.
I'm talking about just, in your general schoolwork, when you might be allowed to just, speak and help each other out. And so that's what I mean when it's hard. So in the balloon race, for example, she was there, eyes on the finish line, like pushing one, almost winning the race. It would have the easiest thing would be just to like block everything out, and then just blink it and only think about yourself, and just push on and push for the finish line, right? To get that to make yourself feel good. But what we find is that quite often or perhaps all the time, when we help other people and make other when we can make other people feel important, and like there's somebody there to help them, when we can put a smile on somebody else's face, it very often means a lot more to us than that brief moment of glory of, finishing first, or crossing the line, and just thinking about yourself. What's coming up for you, Monique?
Well, first, I think that's such a beautiful story because how old was your niece at this time, roughly?
Yeah, young, 5, 6 years old.
Yeah. And what I love about that is that that came out of it. She wasn't doing that to impress anyone. She wasn't doing it
No.
to get attention. It just was her natural inclination to help someone. She clearly knew the goal of the
Mm.
target, right? To get to the other side of the pool.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was like a popsicle or some cotton candy or something, that the prize, right? Like you don't play games without prizes. So she was, if even if it's recognition and everybody thinks you're the coolest. So the first thing that impressed me about this story is that I don't know if the listeners can connect to this, but I can think about times when the idea to do something kind comes up, like in my mind or in my heart. I have this thought, this idea to do something kind for someone that I see who may need it. And we don't always act on those intuitions or, those thoughts, but I do think that they are regularly presented. And we get to ask ourselves, do I want to go on to whatever goal it is? Maybe it's finishing my homework in time to be outside to play, or, checking the box and handling my stuff so that I can do whatever it is. Or if it is to be the first and the best so that I can get a recognition. I have been on the receiving end of someone stopping and giving me a kindness when it meant an inconvenience to them. And what I can say that it has done for me is help me stay grateful, because I can always look to, wow, this person really didn't have to do that thing that was so helpful, but they did. And this is what it meant to me. And when I share that gratitude with them, then of course they're uplifted and feeling like I'm glad it was worthwhile or that it made a difference for you. So I think that it creates one of the things that happens when we are kind, even though it might be, as we said, hard or maybe inconvenient for us, it creates almost a cycle, right? Like
Mm.
one good turn, they say, deserves another. But you and I can think about some simple trends that go on occasionally where, I don't know, all the drivers are stopping for coffee and one person pays for the car behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And that one person who receives the payment doesn't usually just think, oh, that was nice, and move on. They want to pay it forward or pay it back to the next person. And I think you told a story about maybe over in the UK, something like this happened and it just went on for hours and hours and hours. Like it was a
Yeah,
record.
we're talking for like 11 hours or something.
11
It's like
hours of people.
hundreds of people.
But so this is what comes up for me, Simon. It's like,
Massive ripple effect.
what happens when you're kind to someone, even when it's hard? Yes, it probably does create some minor inconvenience, sometimes even more significant inconvenience. But even bigger than that, it can start like a ripple effect in the best way. And I know I love music. So what just came up into my mind was Rachel Platten's Fight song, where she says, like a small boat making big waves, right? Like just a little teeny thing could have a larger than you could ever imagine impact. So that's what comes up for me when we ask the question, what happens when you're kind, even when it's hard? It's like you can't even imagine the outcome, really, because anything is possible after that point, right? Like you just, we don't know how one small kindness is going to affect, other people and what they're going to go on to do. It might not be coffee. It might be giving somebody else a break that they've been giving a hard time to. I mean, to be frank, we might help the bullying issue. If the person who's been the bully gets an unexpected kindness, can you imagine if maybe their heart feels a little bit better they feel a little better cared for. Maybe they're gentler to the person that they've been giving a tough time to, you know? It's possible. So I just love this super simple question and that beautiful story of your 5-ish-year-old niece literally stopping winning the glory in the pool to help somebody who lost their balloon, which I'm pretty sure the way the game was set up, to be frank, Simon, people were supposed to ignore everybody who dropped their balloon. That was the somebody's going to drop their balloon. We're making you bob through water to get it over there, but the person who makes it first is the winner. And she reinterpreted the rules. She did it with her heart. She did what she wanted to do, which was to help the person beside her instead of deciding that the rules of the game meant that she had to keep her balloon and keep going. And I just could go on and on about all the things that came up, but you asked the question. So that's all the stuff that came up for me.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
beautiful,
wow.
simple story.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the thing about the the rules, the rules of the game.
The rules of the
Because
game.
yeah, yeah, because quite often we can just be distracted because a lot of what we see that goes on in the world around us follows or might seemingly be following the those rules for the game, which I think you were kind of alluding to there, Monique, which are, I must push forward, I must, and I think this is where the we can get very confused about what it is to be unstoppable or what
Mm-hmm,
it's not to be unstoppable,
mm-hmm,
because thinking that the only way to get through life is to push ahead and ignore everybody else and head for the finish line, which doesn't really exist. There is no finish line. um, you know Life is a growth game, but thinking that, yep, yeah, so sometimes we can be a bit misled because quite often the leaders that we see around us, on the television and in the news, um, might seemingly be playing with those rules.
right.
And but when we actually kind of look a bit deeper into what's going on, you will really find out. And try it out, guys. We're not saying that it's not right to sometimes push for the finish line and try and win. It all has its place. We're not saying every single time you have to pick up the balloon of the person next to you and we're not saying that. But what we're saying is try it out and see how it makes you feel. Because when we dig a bit deeper, we tend to find that the real fulfillment and satisfaction of what we're actually seeking in life comes from connection, comes from growth and contribution, and the way in which we show up and the things that we actually do, and the you know the smile that we can put on somebody else's face. And that fulfillment which we feel of crossing the finish line first can sometimes be a bit lonely, guys. Okay, so you're there, you get the medal, you're over the line first, and you've done it. You might get a brief congratulations from your friends, but there's not really the you're really kind of like doing that for yourself. And when we actually look outside of ourselves for ways in which we can be more empathetic and show up helpfully and show kindness for other people, then try it out, guys, because that could potentially be where some real magic happens in your life.
Well, I
And
love
I love what you were saying, Monique, as well about, the circular nation, the kind of like cyclical um, way in which it happens. Because watch out, guys, because when you do that, when you show up and be kind to somebody, even when it's hard, just watch out, because it may very well come back to you in very unexpected ways. Now, again, just to clarify, I'm not saying do it because, now you can expect expect something amazing to happen. I'm just saying try it and keep your eyes open and watch out, because it may well come back to you in a very unexpected way.
So, Simon, it's funny because you just used the word try it, and I don't know if that automatically makes you think about what I'm thinking, but I love to challenge these guys to try this with us.
We love a good challenge.
They love a good challenge. And this week, we've got a very simple one. I would love to challenge you all to do two things. Peel your eyes for where you see kindness, because it's going to make you feel good. If you're like me, I think if you're like Simon, it's going to make you feel good to see kindness. But the second thing is also peek up your ears a little bit for when yourself speaks to you and suggests that you do a kindness. Just do it and notice, like Simon said, what happens. If you do this, when you do this, we would love for you to tell us about your experience on the inspiration station. And for sure, if you notice any kind of a ripple because of the kindness, we would love to hear that story as well. Don't you think so, Simon?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
Very simple challenge, but I would love to have as many folks as possible join in.
Mm,
As a matter of fact, invite other people to do it as well. Challenge people around you to join you in this kindness challenge, and let's just figure out what happens.
yeah, yeah. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
See how we get on.
See how we get on. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that challenge. I'm I'm going to try it definitely.
So am
And
I.
and like you say, it's it we need to just try not to overthink it too much, because quite often these things come up, like you said, and then before we've actually done it, we've already talked ourselves out of it. So yeah, in this challenge, like Monique said, then don't overthink it. If you see a way in which you can help or be kind to somebody else, just do it and see what happens. Yeah, guys, we believe in you,
So much.
and we want you to give us some feedback on the inspiration station. Let us know how you're getting on, and let us know how you're becoming unstoppable.
Yeah, tell us all about it. And we'll
Tell
see
us
you
all
next
about
Saturday.
it. Okay.